known for its stunning mountaintop views, a Habsburg history, and a couple of yodelers. It is time to get curious about the Austrian state of Tyrol.
Curious Traveler is made possible by the following.
At Regent Seven Seas Cruises, we believe that personal space is essential to the luxury travel experience. With no more than 732 guests, our ships allow you to explore the world and discover the freedom of having space at sea.
Over 300 tours across all 7 continents. Over 40 years of serving travelers. You can experience effortless fun vacations and authentic experiences with Get. GetTours.com.
Windstar Cruises. Intimate, private, yacht-style cruises to the Mediterranean, Caribbean, Tahiti, and more. We look forward to seeing you on board. WindstarCruises.com.
When you travel with us, you are not the typical tourist.
This Austrian state in the Alps dates back to ancient times. It has been a favorite of emperors, saints, and the Von Trapps, and now is a modern-day ski haven. Tyrol has so much to be curious about.
The Alpine region of Tyrol, Austria, brings to mind lederhosen, Alp horns, cowbells, dirndls, and of course, lots and lots of skiing. And a little bit of yodeling, too. Today, we are taking you to experience it all. The Austrian state or region of Tyrol is in the Alps, with a long German, Italian, and of course, Austrian history. The name Tyrol possibly comes from the name of an aristocratic family who once lived here. And the state of Tyrol dates back to at least the 12th century. Throughout its history, Tyrol has retained its Catholic identity, a carryover from its Habsburg and Holy Roman Empire roots. And you can see signs of that faith, both big and small, throughout the region. But Tyrol has also retained some of its ancient customs and traditions too. Before it was easy to hop from one mountain peak to the next, each valley had its own mini-culture of sorts, with distinct dialects, traditions, and customs. And of course, Tyrol has a rich skiing heritage too, as the retreat for everyone from emperors to the après-ski elite to modern-day curious travelers. So, here's what I'm curious about in Tyrol, Austria. Who built a beautiful little chapel way up here? What does a pagan beast and Catholic tradition have to do with this children's parade? Where can you dance the Schuplattler and ski like a Nordic warrior and drink a pine tree and eat an Imperial Mess? Why are these paintings on the outside of houses? When did an emperor and an empress sleep in this Alpine resort? And how do you make an igloo? Seriously, are we going to make an igloo? It's time to get curious about Tyrol.
Tyrol is of course known for its soaring mountain peaks, its deep valleys dotted with little colorful villages, and also a couple of scary cliffs. Which brings us to this church, which is right on the cliff's edge. Now, why in the world would somebody build a church right on the edge of a cliff?
This is the village of Selrain in the Selrental Valley. It dates back to at least the 13th century. St. Quirin is the oldest church in that valley, and is even on the Selrain coat of arms. And as you can't help but notice, St. Quirin Church is right there on the scarp or the cliff's edge. Why? Well, so that medieval pilgrims could see the church from afar. But there's another theory about why this precarious place was chosen. Legend says that St. Quirin Church was built as a thank you to God by 14th century farmers who had survived the plague. But as the carpenter was chopping the wood for the church, he got hurt. So some helpful birds and horses carried the logs the rest of the way up the mountain and chose this spot. Locals saw this as a sign that this was where the church should be built, because they believed St. Quirin would ward off any future plagues, and St. Quirin also happens to be a patron saint of animals. Once inside, you are surrounded by inspirational oil paintings and intricately carved wooden figures dating back to the 18th century. The overall experience is amazing. All this history surrounding you, up on top of a mountain. And perhaps the best part? To this day, the church's doors are never locked. So it still welcomes pilgrims from afar. What a way to begin our curious journey through the Tyrolean Alps. Our next experience is a little less spiritual and a little more speedy. The long tradition of skiing in Tyrol.
Beautiful Kutai village started as a pilgrimage stop. Later it became a farming village, and today it is known for some of the best skiing in all of Tyrol.
Skiing is synonymous with the Alps, of course, and with Austria. But who really invented skiing? As you might imagine, skiing was originally just a practical way to get from A to B in the snow. Just a couple of wooden planks strapped to your feet did the trick. Skiing dates back to ancient times in Russia, China, and the Arctic Circle. During the Middle Ages, we know that Scandinavian hunters and warriors used skis. And in modern times, many countries use skiers in their military. So that explains that weird Olympic biathlon. And here in the Austrian Alps, downhill skiing versus cross-country skiing was perfected into the sport and lifestyle it is today. But that's not the only winter activity up here in Kutai. There is another that is altogether curious.
When you're up here on top of the mountain, you could go skiing, you could go snowboarding, you could sit around and drink hot cocoa, or you could build an igloo. Hello, Kutai!
Joanna and Mark are two Austrian locals who will teach you how to build an igloo. Yes, really.
How do we begin?
So we're gonna put this is like our measure for the middle. That's our center of the igloo.
Yep.
And this is a radius of 75 centimeters.
I love all the math in it, like it's serious stuff.
It's physics, you know?
Right.
Step 2, play a little ring around the rosy.
And probably children are coming by going, what are those grown-ups doing?
Yeah.
Step 3, now that we have our flat-ish base, it's time to lay down the blocks of the igloo. But where are those blocks again? Oh yeah, we have to cut them.
Don't need a gym membership to do this.
But the workout is just beginning, because now we have to carry our new snow blocks and build our igloo.
Oh yeah, cool. Aww.
It's like a baby, so you gotta be careful.
Exactly. Oh God. Pressure. Don't break the baby.
As we stack our snow blocks in a circle, you can see the size that our igloo will soon be. But it's not quite big enough for a nap. So, oh yeah, there are some life-sized igloos here at the Igloo Dorf Hotel. Much better for nap time. Oh yes, you can definitely rest comfortably in here, with a giant mountain sheep guarding over you. And there's even a charging station for your smartphone. And then there are even more ice carvings of nature and curious creatures. Even a restaurant and a lounge, all part of an Igloo Village hotel.
This is like a Disney movie.
And in case you're worried about being chilly sleeping in an igloo all night, don't be. Your natural body heat and the blankets are all you need. Plus, how could anyone worry with this guy keeping watch all night? Next, once upon a time, a few centuries ago, a certain emperor decided that he'd like to stay a night or two here in Kütai as well. But sleeping in an igloo wasn't exactly his style.
In 1497, Emperor Maximilian I decided he needed a vacation home where he could get away from it all. So he chose picture-perfect Kütai. And here's the best part. Today, Jagdschloss is one of the oldest and most historic ski resorts in all of Tyrol.
It is amazing to experience the history of this Alpine treasure. And to show us around is the resort's director, Vincenz Trindle.
In 1622 until 1628, they was building this house here. Before it was nothing. And even they didn't have a road to come here. They just by horses was coming here and go back. And it was just for the monarchy, not for anything else.
No one else. It must have been hard building it on a slope like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And this room is part of that original design.
We have a special place here where they heat in the room.
They did the heating right here?
They put the stone out in the fire and made it warm, and then they put it back here to make a little bit of beautiful warm atmosphere in this room here.
Fortunately, there are many rooms in this country castle that are just the same as they were in the 17th century. Like this room, a very special room, because in the 19th century, this was Emperor Franz Joseph and Empress Sissi's bedroom.
Talk about this key. Is that one of the original ones?
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Even
wow.
If we go in, you can see it. It's really great.
Okay.
And we have just one of this. If they're lost, so that we don't have any other key.
We better not lose it.
We have to leave it open then.
And so this is how it was in the 1600s?
1600, yeah.
Wow.
28.
And all of this still works.
Yeah, but
I'll let you take the key up.
Beautiful if you have a look here.
That's fantastic.
We handmade all this traditional, what they made. This is really great.
Oh, that's great. And so that opens.
Yeah.
That's the lock. Makes that great sound.
See on the door, this is really great handmade.
And what I love
is
not only is it functional, but it's got. They took the time to make the little patterns. Oh, I see a little face now.
Yeah. Yeah,
look at that. That's so great.
Now it's really great if you see and the flowers from the typical from the mountains here, as we call Enzian, and so this is a beautiful handmade. If you look around, how much work it is to make this.
So much detail.
And the details of this centuries-old treasure are incredible.
Over on the other side, it's the double-headed eagle of Austria.
Even for Tyrol, you see in the center the red one. This is typical for Tyrol here, and even this is original from this time.
I'm telling you, this is like a museum.
Yeah.
It really is. I keep saying I shouldn't touch anything. Say, no, it's fine, it's fine.
If you're a little bit like the history, then it must be great here.
It's fantastic.
Next, we dry off our snow gear and stroll through the Alps on foot to explore some of the many darling small villages of Tyrol. So, we go from igloos to eagles.
This is a quintessential Tyrol village. It is called Eagles, and its history goes back to ancient times. Now, the origin of its name is a bit of a mystery, but some say it could possibly come from an 11th century monastery that was in the area. What we do know is that its modern history began in the 19th century, when the well-to-do would vacation here. And luckily for us, some of those 19th century farmhouses, hotels, and taverns are still here today.
One of the loveliest buildings in Eagles is the parish church of St. Giles. It dates back to the early Middle Ages, but most of what you see now was built around 1700 in this beautiful Baroque style and with that lovely yellow and white motif that you see all around Tyrol. Now, the cross that you see on top of the church is pretty traditional, right? But other crosses around Eagles, no disrespect, are a little bit corny.
All throughout the village of Eagles, you will see something quite curious. Corn hanging on the outside of the buildings. And on this particular farmhouse, a whole lot of corn in the shape of a cross. This goes back many centuries to the agrarian roots of the village, when farmers and townsfolk would hang this corn as a thank you to God for a bountiful harvest.
It's not just the corn that's curious here. This farmhouse is more than 400 years old. But today, it is something quite different. So let's go inside and warm up. This is Gilda, and this is her shop. called Kunstwerkstall, which simply means art workshop. She and her husband Karl carry on the long tradition of craft making in the Tyrolean Alps, using what nature provides here in the mountains surrounding their shop.
This is a typical tree, only growing up in the mountains above 1,000 meters.
Okay.
And it's growing very slow.
And it smells good too. It does smell good.
Yes.
And tell me the name of the tree again.
This is Zirbe.
Zilber.
Zirbe.
This brings us to another Tyrolean tradition. Centuries ago, when beer and wine had to be imported from far, far away, it was much more economical for locals to just distill schnapps from what was available in the mountains. So yes, you guessed it, they drink pine trees around here. Actually, it comes from the pine cone. Oh, that makes more sense.
We pick it from the tree and then cut it in the middle,
yeah,
and put it in the schnapps, and so it becomes this color.
That's amazing.
And it's very good for the stomach after dinner, for example, and it's healthy.
Of course it's healthy. Of course it's from a tree.
Yeah.
It's from a tree.
Yeah.
Just a few steps away from the Kunstwerkstall is a wonderful historic marker of Eagle's 19th century heyday, when the upper class would après-ski here. This historic marker was built in 1889, and the road that leads here is still the same, except now it's a paved road instead of a dirt road, and cars whiz by instead of the clip-clop of horses.
In the heart of Eagles, of course, is its famous sport hotel, which is the perfect example of the type of architecture you will see all throughout Tyrol, where it looks a little bit like a Swiss chalet, but also has some Bavarian touches, Italian touches, and wouldn't you know it, some curious touches as well.
The chalet style developed here in the Alps, with those roofs that jet out to protect the balconies and front doors below from that ever-present snow. And always with those fairy tale-esque wooden carvings and designs adorning the eaves and balconies. The interior of the Sport Hotel has undergone some beautiful makeovers over the years. But there are some wonderful bits of the original building still to be discovered here. And today, especially if you are more après-ski than ski, you can taste the Tyrolean history at their restaurant. It really looks like a Hansel and Gretel house, doesn't it? Many of these dishes are the same as what the original vacationers would have enjoyed back in 1889.
Some of the best Tyrolean cuisine that you can try, or maybe some dishes you've heard of and maybe some that you haven't. This one you may have heard of. It's Wiener Schnitzel served with potatoes, and my friend is having
a Frittatensuppe.
And what is that?
Oh, that's a soup with sliced pancakes, not sweet pancakes.
Okay.
It's like pancakes, and I love it as a starter. It's especially in the wintertime, and when it's cold outside, snowing, it keeps you warm.
Perfect,
I love
perfect.
it.
And this one I know, this is a dessert. It's called Kaiserschmarrn. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Kaiserschmarrn.
Kaiserschmarrn.
And what goes on top of it? What's that
Oh,
called?
it's about no Englishman can pronounce it. Zwetschgenröster.
Zwetschgenröster.
Röster.
Ah,
Yeah,
and it's like a jam, a fruit.
It's a jam,
Yeah.
yes. Plums with cinnamon and sugar and so on. And it tastes delicious.
Perfect. And my favorite part is Kaiserschmarrn translates to Imperial Mess because there's a wonderful legend that says Emperor Franz Joseph really loved it, and I know I do too. Okay to have dessert first?
Yes.
Okay.
Now that we're all fueled up, we're on to another darling village named Lens. Lens has a population of about 1,000 people, and it is known as a health and recreation retreat. It dates back to at least the 12th century, when it was a stop on the old Salt Road trading route that once ran through Austria. And Lens is the perfect spot to explore some curious Tyrolean traditions. Notice anything unique? Things are a little inside out around here, with the paintings on the outside of the buildings. These lovely little murals are part of the Lüftlmalerei tradition, found across Austria, Italy, and Germany. Often, these Baroque-style frescoes are of the local patron saints, who sort of stand guard outside the family home. But there is another figure here in Lens, and he is certainly no saint. In fact, he's a wild man.
There once was a Roman road that crossed through Lens, and anyone who dared to travel it heard the legend of a ferocious wild man who supposedly lived here in the mountains. That is why today you will see these wonderful little drawings and paintings of the Wildermann all around town. But today there is something not so scary to commemorate the home of the Wildermann. It is the Wildenmann Inn and Restaurant.
Who or what in the world is the Wildermann? Well, he, or it, is an old pagan legend, kind of a half-man, half-beast Sasquatch sort of fella. He is often a symbol of the cycles of life or the cycles of nature, and sometimes he's just downright freaky. And curiously, the Wildermann is also a part of this children's parade. These local Lens children are celebrating the Catholic Carnival, or pre-Lent celebrations, kind of the toned-down version of Mardi Gras. Here in Austria, this is called Fasching, which marks the beginning of spring. The kids get all dressed up and drive away the evil spirits with the crack of a whip. And with that, the Wildermann protects the village and ushers in the spring season once again. Next, let's explore a Tyrolean tradition that doesn't include any evil spirits. Just some really wonderful music, dancing, a bit of yodeling, and some shoe slapping. This is the Schuplattler, a traditional Tyrolean and Bavarian folk dance. Schuh translates to shoe, and platt translates to flat, because the dancers slap their shoes with their hands held flat. This may seem like plain old fun, but of course, the Schuplattler has a curious history. It is believed that it began in the Middle Ages as a dating ritual of sorts, where young men would dance, clap, and shoe slap their little hearts out.
Jetzt geht es aus die Allmann, wo's ganz von der Geist.
Next, to join the show, you gotta dress the part, right? So we head to Tiroler Heimaturk in Innsbruck to learn about the traditional Tyrolean dress. The Tracht, which is a fancier folk dress for holidays and special occasions, and the Dirndl, which was the working woman's dress. In fact, the word Dirndl comes from the phrase maid's dress. And the different patterns and colors on the dresses signified which region a Frau or Fräulein came from.
So this is, I know it's from Tyrol, but you said it's specifically which region?
This is Wipptal.
Wipptal?
Yeah, this goes to the Brenner, to South Tyrol, to Italy.
Oh, okay.
This goes to the south.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So that particular region would always have a black skirt, red with green frame.
Mostly the skirt is black.
There are many different forms of the Tyrolean dress, but the basics are this: a white blouse called a hemdel, a laced bodice called a mitre, a skirt called a kittel, and an apron called a schurz. But unlike our overstuffed closets of today, with fashions coming and going, these dresses were truly one of a kind.
It's a lifetime dress, so they wear it for her whole life, and normally keep it in their families and give them to a daughter or even a granddaughter.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's
nice.
a real traditional cloth.
Okay, my turn. What to wear, what to wear.
Ta-da! What do you think? Do I fit in now?
Perfect.
Why do I suddenly feel like yodeling? So, from a chapel way up high with a view of the valleys down below, which cradles Alpine villages and towns straight out of a fairy tale, to mountain peaks that provide the snowiest, loveliest playground for skiers and après-skiers alike, on to an even chillier experience where you stomp, chop, lift and build the coolest little hideaway, which is just a snowball's throw away from the warm and historic chalet that was good enough for royalty. And then there's the village, where the corn is spiritual and the pine is tasty, and the place you rest and dine is steeped in Tyrolean tradition.
Okay to have dessert first?
Yes.
Okay.
On to another tiny mountaintop village where a not-so-tiny creature once roamed, or maybe he still does. And then finally, back down the mountains to don a dirndl and do some serious Schuplattling. Tyrol has so much to be curious about.
Danke for joining us on our educational journey, and hopefully now you're even more curious about the who, what, where, why, when, and hows of Curious Tyrol. As the Tyroleans say, Pafiadi.
All right, I'm filming. David looks like a monkey coming in there. David made it. You're gonna like create a snowball. We made our own spur. Yeah, that's my spur art.
Thank you for joining us on our educated and sophisticated educational experience.
Curious Traveler is made possible by the following.
At Regent Seven Seas Cruises, we believe that personal space is essential to the luxury travel experience. With no more than 732 guests, our ships allow you to explore the world and discover the freedom of having space at sea.
Over 300 tours across all 7 continents. Over 40 years of serving travelers. You can experience effortless fun vacations and authentic experiences with Get. GetTours.com.
Windstar Cruises. Intimate, private, yacht-style cruises to the Mediterranean, Caribbean, Tahiti, and more. We look forward to seeing you on board. WindstarCruises.com.
When you travel with us, you are not the typical tourist.
And closed captioning provided by TAP Air Portugal.
Still curious? Go to CuriousTravelerTV.com and follow us on Facebook at Curious Traveler TV, on Twitter at Curious Trav TV, and on Instagram at Curious Traveler TV.